It was the kind of night that should have been peaceful and ordinary. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a gentle glow over the quiet suburban neighborhood. My parents had left for a weekend getaway, and my older sister was out with friends, leaving me, a 16-year-old, in charge of the house. I spent the evening watching TV, my dog Max curled up at my feet. It was a typical night in our quiet corner of the world, but sometimes the most sinister events unfold in the most unexpected places. As I settled into bed, the darkness outside my window held a sense of tranquility. I couldn't have been more wrong. I was jolted awake around midnight by the sound of my landline ringing. My heart raced as I fumbled for the phone on my bedside table. Who would be calling at this hour? It was unusual for anyone to contact our home phone. We relied on our cell phones for communication. With trembling hands, I answered the call, my voice shaky as I muttered a hesitant hello. On the other end, a distorted voice replied, "Is your sister home?" The tone was raspy, and I couldn't quite make out the person's gender. "No, she's out with her friends," I replied, feeling a growing sense of unease. "Can I take a message?" There was a pause on the other end, and then the voice, filled with an unsettling urgency, said, "I need to speak with her. It's a matter of life and death." Dread washed over me. The voice didn't sound right, and something about the call didn't sit well. I hesitated for a moment before replying, "I can't reach her right now. Can I give her a message when she gets back?" The caller's voice grew more insistent, almost desperate. "No, you don't understand. You must find her. Tell her to come home immediately. It's her life that's in danger." I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. It sounded like some sick prank, but the urgency in the voice left me chilled to the bone. I hung up, feeling a mix of confusion and dread. I decided to call my sister to let her know about the bizarre call. However, she didn't answer, and her phone went straight to voicemail. Frustrated and anxious, I decided to try her friends, but they all confirmed that she was with them and hadn't received any strange calls or messages. I was left with a growing sense of unease, unsure of what to do next. As I sat in my room, contemplating the strange call, I heard a tapping sound coming from my window. I froze, and Max, my loyal companion, began to growl lowly. I cautiously approached the window, pulling back the curtain, and my heart leaped into my throat. There, standing in the darkness just outside my window, was a figure dressed in a tattered hooded cloak. The person's face was obscured by the hood, and I couldn't make out any features. The figure was holding a cell phone in one hand, and the screen illuminated its face in eerie pale light. The figure raised a finger to its lips, signaling for silence, and then held up the phone screen, displaying a message: "Call your sister back. Her life is in danger." I was paralyzed with fear, unable to react as the figure continued to tap on the window, insisting that I make the call. But how could I call my sister back when she was out with friends, safe and sound? I began to suspect that this was all some twisted prank, but the menacing presence outside my window told me otherwise. Finally, I mustered the courage to make the call, using the landline to reach my sister. The phone rang, and I prayed that she would answer. My anxiety grew with each passing ring, and just as I was about to hang up, she picked up. "Hello." Her voice crackled through the receiver. Trembling, I relayed the bizarre and frightening events of the night, including the mysterious figure outside my window. She fell silent for a moment, and then I heard her voice, choked with emotion. "I'm not with my friends. I left early because I got a weird call from someone saying they were me, and that I should come home immediately. I didn't think it was real. But now..." Our hearts pounded in unison as we realized the gravity of the situation. The caller had somehow impersonated my sister's voice to lure her away from her friends, leaving her vulnerable. With the figure still lurking outside my window, we knew we had to act fast. My sister and I decided to call the police, who arrived promptly to investigate the situation. They combed the area around our house, but found no trace of the hooded figure. The caller had disappeared, leaving behind only a chilling sense of dread and the unanswered question of their true identity. The police assured us that they would investigate the incident further, but they couldn't provide any immediate answers. It was a night that left us all shaken and haunted by the realization that someone had targeted our family with a sinister ruse, impersonating voices and lurking in the shadows. To this day, we don't know who was behind the unsettling events of that night or what their true intentions were. It was a true encounter with the unknown, a disturbing and unsettling experience that still lingers in our memories, serving as a stark reminder of the darkness that can intrude even in the most peaceful of moments. In the remote, quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled deep in the woods, my friends and I embarked on a long-awaited camping trip. This adventure had been months in the making. It was a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of city life and immerse us in the tranquility of the wilderness. Our group consisted of 5 of us: Emma, Oliver, Ava, Noah, and me, Alex. The journey began smoothly, filled with laughter, songs around the campfire, and the kind of camaraderie that only close friends can share. We reveled in exploring the dense forest and lounging by the crystal-clear river winding its way through the woods. Days turned into nights, and the experience was shaping up to be everything we had hoped for. A chance to recharge our spirits and create lasting memories. However, on the 3rd night of our camping trip, an unexpected event shattered the peaceful atmosphere. A strange noise, like a low growl mixed with rustling leaves, echoed through the woods. We exchanged uneasy glances. My friends looked to me for reassurance, and I did my best to put their fears at ease, suggesting it was probably just a curious raccoon or a lost animal. But the unsettling noise persisted, growing louder and closer. Fear slowly crept into the hearts of our group, and we huddled around the campfire, clutching our flashlights. Suddenly, a tall, hooded figure emerged from the shadows. The stranger didn't utter a word, but moved deliberately toward us, one step at a time. Panic set in, and I could feel the anxiety radiating from my friends. We realized we were miles away from any help, and our phones were useless in this remote location. Our carefree camping trip had taken an eerie and perilous turn. As the stranger drew nearer, he raised his hand, revealing an old, blood-stained hunting knife. At that moment, I knew we had to act quickly. I shouted for everyone to run, and we scattered into the forest, heartbeats pounding in our ears. The darkness of the woods seemed to close in around us as we sprinted through the underbrush. Chasing us, the hooded figure was relentless, his presence sending shivers down our spines. We heard his heavy breathing as he pursued us through the labyrinth of trees and bushes. Oliver, a friend who had served in the military, managed to find a hidden spot and set an impromptu trap using some branches and a taut rope he fashioned. When the stranger drew close, we watched in terror as he triggered the trap, sending the hooded figure sprawling to the ground. The knife went flying from his grip. We acted swiftly, grabbing the knife and disarming the intruder. We held him at bay until the authorities arrived, bewildered by the stranger's intentions. It turned out he was a survivalist who had lived in the woods for years, isolated from society and plagued by paranoia. His reasons for approaching us in such a menacing manner remained a mystery, but his presence had threatened our very lives. With the stranger detained, we decided to cut our camping trip short and head back to town. While the adventure had taken an unexpected, sinister turn, it had also revealed the strength of our bond and our ability to overcome adversity together. The memories of that night would stay with us forever. A tale to be told around campfires and over drinks, strengthening our friendship even further. As we made our way back to Willowbrook, we knew our friendship was unbreakable, and we would always cherish the unforgettable, albeit harrowing, experience in the woods. In the days and weeks that followed, we often gathered around to retell the tale, turning it into a legend of our own. It became the story of how a group of friends have faced down a menacing stranger deep in the woods, emerging not only unscathed but stronger in their bonds. The incident brought us even closer, reinforcing the importance of trust and unity. It made us appreciate the simple joys of life, the warmth of a campfire, and the sound of nature in the night. We continued to visit Willowbrook, the town where our adventure had unfolded, but we chose to stick to the safer parts of the woods, keeping the memory of that fateful night alive and our friendship enduring. It was nearing midnight, and I found myself on an isolated journey through the heart of the American Midwest. The relentless rain drummed on my car's roof, a consistent, almost hypnotic rhythm that had accompanied me for hours. The night outside was an abyss, and my headlights cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but a wet, glistening road. Time seemed to stretch on endlessly, and I yearned for a brief respite from the relentless monotony of the drive. My destination, a small town a few hundred miles away, was a speck on the map, a place I needed to reach for a work commitment. The late hour, combined with the monotonous road, had begun to wear on my senses. Just when the rain appeared to reach its peak of intensity, I saw it, a neon KFC sign shimmering through the downpour. Its welcoming glow promised warmth, nourishment, and a temporary escape from the relentless storm. I pulled into the nearly empty parking lot, the rain applauding my decision with an even more fervent crescendo on the car's roof. The restaurant, bathed in a dim, almost flickering light, stood like a sanctuary in the midst of a desolate landscape. As I stepped inside, I was immediately struck by the eerie quiet that enveloped the restaurant. The employees moved about in an almost trance-like state, their every motion slow and mechanical, as if they were caught in a never-ending loop. I placed my order at the counter, and the cashier's vacant eyes met mine as he handed me my meal, almost mechanically, as if he were a marionette being operated by unseen hands. He retreated behind a faded curtain, disappearing from view. I found a sense of solace in a corner booth, my meal before me, and the soft hum of the overhead lights was the only sound in the unsettling silence. It wasn't just the quietness or the peculiar demeanor of the employees that unnerved me. It was a growing sense of unease that settled deep within me, an intuition that something was profoundly wrong, although I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The man in the adjacent booth, seated alone and engrossed in his food, appeared oblivious to the eerie atmosphere. His back was turned to me, and he seemed like any other weary traveler seeking refuge from the storm. I considered striking up a conversation, anything to break the oppressive silence that surrounded us. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the door to the KFC swung open, allowing a gust of rain-soaked wind to sweep in. A disheveled figure entered, rainwater streaming from his soaked clothes and pooling on the linoleum floor. His eyes darted around the restaurant, as if he were searching for something or someone. For a moment, the figure's gaze met mine, and a chill ran down my spine. There was something about his appearance, something indefinably off, that sent shivers through me. Without uttering a word, he approached the man in the adjacent booth, whose back remained turned. In his hand, he held a tattered envelope, and as he placed it on the table before the unsuspecting diner, the room seemed to grow colder. The man in the adjacent booth finally turned to face his unexpected visitor, and a look of profound shock washed over him. The two engaged in a whispered conversation, words too soft to reach my ears. I strained to listen, but their voices were barely audible over the hum of the overhead lights and the persistent rain outside. Then, the man from the adjacent booth rose abruptly, leaving behind his untouched meal, and followed the disheveled figure to the door. With one final glance around the eerie restaurant, I watched them both disappear into the rainy night. A sense of disquiet settled over me as I sat alone in the dimly lit KFC. What had just transpired seemed otherworldly, a surreal encounter that defied explanation. I couldn't help but feel like an unwilling spectator in a twisted drama. I contemplated leaving, of course, but a curiosity that I couldn't suppress tethered me to my booth. What could be so significant about that tattered envelope? Who were these men, and what had just taken place before my eyes? Minutes turned into an hour as I waited, my thoughts consumed by what I had witnessed. The rain outside showed no sign of relenting, and the restaurant remained eerily still, as if holding its breath. Then, just as I was on the brink of abandoning my vigil, the door swung open once more. The man from the adjacent booth entered, his drenched clothes clinging to his frame. He appeared different now, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. As he approached my booth, he hesitated, his eyes locking with mine. Without a word, he slid the tattered envelope across the table to me. My heart raced as I picked it up, and I could feel the weight of its contents, both literal and figurative. Before I could inquire about the events that had unfolded, he turned and walked out of the TFC, disappearing into the rainy night just as mysteriously as he had arrived. I opened the envelope, my hands trembling with anticipation. Inside, I found a single weathered photograph. It depicted the TFC restaurant, but it was not as I had seen it that night. Instead, the image showed the establishment in a state of disrepair, its windows shattered, and the surroundings in ruin. Written on the back of the photograph in faded ink were the words, "They're still here. Don't return." The photograph was haunting, its implications unfathomable. I couldn't help but wonder what had transpired at that very KFC long before my arrival. What had driven the man from the adjacent booth to share this chilling message with me? My mind raced with questions, but the answers remained elusive like shadows in the night. I left the KFC, the tattered envelope and photograph now in my possession, my curiosity matched only by an escalating sense of foreboding. The road stretched out before me once more, the rain having eased, but my journey had taken an unexpected turn. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into something far beyond my comprehension, a mystery that would continue to haunt my thoughts long after the storm had passed. As I drove through the darkened Midwest, the only illumination coming from my car's headlights, I couldn't help but wonder about the events that had transpired that night. What secrets had I stumbled upon? What had driven the man from the adjacent booth to pass the mysterious envelope to me? The tattered photograph was my only clue, and its cryptic message weighed heavily on my mind. The small town I was approaching, my original destination, seemed somehow different now, shrouded in an air of mystery. I couldn't help but contemplate the warning on the back of the photograph. "They're still here. Don't return." What did it mean? Who were they? As the rain-soaked town came into view, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that I was stepping into a story much larger and more unsettling than I had ever imagined. The storm had passed, but the mysteries of that night, like the rain, showed no sign of relenting.